Hi, I'm Travis McVeigh. I'm an anesthesiologist from Dallas, Texas, and this is the Thank You Notes podcast. Today's guest is one of my favorite coworkers. Her name is Jennifer Rippe. She's a CRNA. She's originally from Texas, but did her nursing and CRNA training in Kansas. I currently hold the title of CRNA liaison within my group, and Jennifer is the chief CRNA. So she and I have been working together in these capacities for about 3 years. Her hard work, organization, and just overall excellence have made my job, the administrative one at least, pretty damn easy. She's also a thank you note enthusiast. She sends me pictures of the thank you notes and the thank you gifts that she sends out when her and her kid get some gift in the mail or something. So this is my talk with Jennifer Rippe. As good as it gets anymore.
Jen, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Let's start it off with the same question I ask everybody. Do you write thank you notes?
I do write thank you notes. I would say I'm very good at thank you notes for life events. So like high school graduation, college graduation, wedding, baby, like those milestones. I'm very good at getting them out very promptly. Smaller things, maybe not as much, but I definitely do try.
What was the last one that you wrote? What was it for? And I think you mentioned earlier that you sent food a lot. So what was it, a food one, or
Yeah.
What was the last one?
Yeah, so my last one was a food one. I think I do thank you food more than I do thank you notes lately. Actually, just Friday, the Friday we just had, I emailed my child's teachers. He has like 3 main teachers. And I was like, hey, thank you for a wonderful school year. I want to buy you guys lunch on Monday. Here's the menu of like one of my favorite restaurants. Pick what you want. I'll pick it up and deliver it. And so, yeah, yesterday I brought all the teachers lunch, and I think it's just an easy way for me to thank somebody with maybe not having to write something. I feel like I'm not like very good with words. And so maybe it's just an easy way for me to express myself without having to like write a whole thank you note. Like I feel like food is like this universal thing everyone loves, and I'm like, I'm showing you gratitude through food.
I can relate with that. Buying lunch, that's especially in the medical profession. That's kind of a thing that happens. Buy lunch for the office or something. That's kind of a common thank you thing that we do. Your son, does he write thank you notes? Do you make him do that?
I tried when he was little, like after birthdays, we had these little notes you could just like fill in. It was pre-printed, and it was like, thank you for my fill in the blank. And then I really enjoyed you coming to my party. And then like he had to sign his name. So it was like only like 2 fill in the blanks. And it was slow going and probably some tears. As he's gotten older, he now has his own stationery, and every now and then I can get him to write something. There's still, his spelling's not good. It's not what he wants to do. So there's a little bit of protest, but he, like this weekend, he had a birthday party, and I just have a blank box of like birthday cards, like just this happy birthday, and there's nothing on the inside. And so he drew a little picture for his friend, and then I made him on that birthday card write, thank you for inviting me to your birthday party. So it's kind of getting 2 things done at once. Of here's your birthday card and a thank you at the same time.
How old's your son?
About to be 9.
Okay. Really, the reason that I wanted to have you on here is because you are the chief CRNA for the anesthesia group that we both work for. And you have made my job, both directly and indirectly, a lot easier just because of all the hard work and the good work and the organizational skills that you have. Everybody in the group is thankful for you, but me especially. So I wanted to know, have you always been like this? Were you like this in high school? Is it something you grew into? Talk to me about that.
No, in general, like I love organization. I love planning. It's kind of just who I am. Like sometimes it's almost all consuming. Like I just like have to be planning or organizing something. But actually, would you believe this is like really the first leadership role I've like ever had in my life? Like I've never been like class president or anything. So this is the first thing I've done of like kind of managing people.
That's shocking, honestly. Now, when you went into nursing, was the plan always to be a CRNA, or how did you come about to the world of anesthesia?
It's kind of a fun story. So anesthesia kind of found me. I come from two parents who are not in the medical field, so clearly they weren't like telling me what to do. And my first day of nursing school, so I did a bachelor's of science in nursing. That was in 2002. I started nursing school. And kind of back in those days, you didn't need a bachelor's degree. There's some other routes to get into nursing. And because I was getting a bachelor's degree, our professors were very big advocates of, if you're getting a bachelor's, you might as well just get a master's degree in something. If you're here, just go all the way. So the very, very first day of nursing school, like, welcome to nursing school. Here's your choices for master's degrees. You can be a CRNA or you can be a nurse practitioner. You need to pick one and you need to do one of those if you're here. And I picked CRNA that day, like in my mind, and was kind of like just on a one-way track ever since that day. I was like, all right, I got to get these grades. I got to take these tests. You have to work in the ICU before you can go to anesthesia school. There's 2 tests you have to take to apply. And that's like very single-minded.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually very glad they told me about it because like I said, I've had no exposure to anyone in anesthesia, and they were the ones that really guided me into this profession.
So you kind of jumped in sight unseen, cross my fingers,
Yeah.
hope I like this.
Yeah, I mean, I had never even been in an operating room,
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of weird. I didn't, I might have like shadowed for like half a day, but when I went in, the patient was already asleep. I kind of talked to the CRNA and like left. So didn't really get to like experience the culture or anything. It was just like, yeah, that sounds cool. Sure, I'll do it.
So was it a shock? Like, did you pass out at the sight of blood, or what did you think the first time that you made it to an operating room?
The ICU work I did before anesthesia school, I was in a neurotrauma ICU. So that kind of prepared me, I think, for the OR. But none of that really, really bothers me. I'd seen quite a bit of horrific things in the ICU, because in the ICU, sometimes, they go from the ER to the ICU. They skip the operating room because it's not an operable condition. So we did see, a lot of not fun things.
So that you started this in 2002, and then at what year did you become a CRNA?
So let's see, I graduated nursing school 2004. You have to work in the ICU for 2 years. I did 3 because I'm young. And then I graduated anesthesia school in 2010.
Okay. And then you moved to Texas after that from Kansas, correct?
Correct. So from Texas, just went to Kansas for anesthesia school.
Okay.
So came back home.
Let's see, is there somebody that you've kind of modeled your clinical persona after, your leadership style after, or where does all this come from?
Anesthesia wise, it's for sure Scott Merrill. He is an anesthesiologist with our group with USAP. So he interviewed me when I was applying for jobs. I only applied for one job. He interviewed me, he hired me, he mentored me. I worked for that group for 5 years. And moving from academic medicine into community-based private practice, fast-paced medicine, he really honestly taught me everything. He is the most patient person you will ever meet. He was never angry with me. He was always giving me tips and tricks. I think it helped too because his daughters are about 10 years younger than me. So it was kind of he was always you really remind me of my daughters, and he was very caring. Like I said, I really think I get almost all of my anesthesia style from him because we work so closely together for so many years.
I've had some experience with Scott, and it was really interesting calling him on the phone because you have to put up with the birds in the background that are so freaking loud. And I guess that's one of his hobbies. You know him better than I do, but
Yeah, he enjoys nature photography, so there was a good chance he was probably outside photographing something.
And I had a similar experience with him. We worked at his hospital in Richardson for a little while, and he's very patient, very knowledgeable, very very good guy. I enjoyed working with him, but it was the birds is always what stuck out to me.
That's funny. You should see his pictures. They're amazing. Him and his friend used to like go to like downtown Dallas to like some weird part of town just to get a sunrise picture or a bridge picture. I actually have one of his pictures. I got blown up is hanging up in my master bedroom. He took this beautiful like foggy moon picture of Reunion Tower.
Mm-hmm.
And casually just was like, send it to me. He's like, hey, what do you think of this picture? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. Like we got married at Reunion Tower.
Oh.
And so he actually just let me like have the rights to the photo. And yeah, I got it blown up. It's this huge picture. He's very talented.
I guess I knew he did photography, but that kind of falls in line with everything. That's really cool. So you worked in I guess it was Garland or Richardson, and then you come to our group in Dallas and work for a little bit. What was your attitude when you got put in charge of the CRNAs and you became chief CRNA? Did you feel like an imposter syndrome, or did you feel like you were ready for it?
I just really wanted to get things organized and just like make everybody happy. You know, I just wanted everyone to have a good experience and be organized and just, I guess, represent them well, and advocate for them and be there when they needed somebody, you know, not the person that they like, hey, this is going on, and you listen and like, okay, like brush it off. Try to find a solution to an issue they're having or advocate for them, and maybe try to make their life easier in any way possible.
I would say that your leadership style was, what was the phrase that I used? I think it was like hyper transparent fairness.
Yeah.
Do you think that's accurate? Do you have a better way to describe it? What would you think your leadership style is?
It's like, you know, back to like treat people like you want to be treated, I think is what I really try to do. If somebody tells me the schedule is going to be out on the 15th of every month, I expect the schedule to be out on the 15th of every month. You know, if I put in a PTO request, I expect somebody to reply to that request promptly so I can plan my trip. You know, I want somebody who's going to fairly distribute the holidays. So it's transparent in the way that that's what I expect out of people. And I assume that's what how they would like to be treated as well. And like I said, advocating for them. If I see something that's not working, I don't disregard what they're telling me. I will talk to somebody about it. I mean, just a basic thing of my staff didn't have an email before they started work. They were getting their email on the first day of work, and I, you know, emailed the people or we had a meeting about it. Actually, the people at you know, kind of the office people, and said, hey, this isn't working for my team. And they have subsequently had meetings about it and are working on it. Like I said, I just want to make their life easy and listen to concerns they have and try to fix them promptly.
Do you run your house the same way that you run your CRNAs? Is your husband receptive to that?
I do. I sit down with my kid on Sunday night and we look over the lunch menu and what days do you want to buy lunch? My husband and I make a menu for the week, you know, so there's not this, what are we having for dinner debate? Like, these are our meals for the week. This is what we're having. I think he's learned to accept it, but at the same time, I did marry a guy who is like a master at Excel. And I mean, he has a spreadsheet for everything. It kind of works. Like I guess our OCDs work together. I mean, this is a man who took a printed spreadsheet of our Disney vacation to Disney of like, all right, the parade's happening from this time, so we need to hit the parade, but maybe if we leave the parade 5 minutes early, there's this ride is around the corner and it normally has a long line, but it won't have a long line because everyone's at the parade. Like things are very planned at my household. Like, I could tell you where my vacations are the next few years. Actually, the other day I was frustrated because I couldn't make a hotel reservation for next summer because it's not open yet. But I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready to plan this trip. Like, why isn't the rest of the world?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't think I've ever met your husband, but I was wondering if opposites had attracted or if he was as organized and with it as you are. But it sounds like you found the perfect match.
Yeah, and he's like super detail oriented too, so it works out good. Maybe even more so than me. He enjoys he does woodworking and things, and very very detail oriented. So it works good.
Now, do you think your son's going to grow up to be this way, or do you think he's going to rebel?
There'll probably be some rebellion in there just because he'll probably be that kid that was like, oh, my mom made me,
Mm-hmm.
be so organized. His toy bin started out organized, but I'm always like, oh, put your stuff away, like put your shoes in your cubby. Like he has a cubby for his shoes. So that'll actually be really fun to see what happens if he's going to be super organized or just like, I've had enough. Stop telling me to put my shoes in my cubby. Yeah. I'm a grown up.
I guess I drill down on this because I'm so jealous. Like I wish I was this way, but I can't keep it up. I can keep it up for a week or two, but I wish I could be that way. All right. I wrote you a thank you note. I'm going to read it to you now. I had to write this on my phone. It's a long story, but I'll read it to you now. It says, Dear Jen, I feel like you deserve multiple thank you notes for the numerous ways in which you've helped me both directly and indirectly. Your leadership and organization have made the group a better place to work. Not only is everything fair and transparent, you frequently step up and take unpopular shifts, which is the definition of leading by example. We've had very good success in recruiting new CRNAs to come work with us. When anyone tries to praise me for this success, I respond the same way every time. I set the hook and Rippy gets them in the boat. This is all in addition to the outstanding work you do with our patients as well in the operating room. Thank you for making my job so easy, Travis.
Thank you. It's very kind. Very kind. I feel like we do have maybe sometimes a thankless job. And so it's always nice to hear thank you. Well,
it's leadership especially is a thankless job. All in all, you're very, very nice to work with, very great to work with.
I think we work well together.
I do too. I think you work well with everybody. All right, Jen, did you bring a thank you note in?
I did bring a thank you note in. I kind of have you and your podcast to thank for this thank you note.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't decide who to write a thank you note to. Obviously, there's so many people I could thank. And I noticed you have like a theme of bringing your old teachers on.
Yeah.
You've had like 3 or 4 of your teachers, and one, I'm just impressed by that because I remember exactly one teacher I've ever had. I cannot name a single other teacher I've ever had my entire life except for one.
Really?
And yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like my husband can name every teacher he's had since kindergarten. And you ask me to name anybody, my 5th grade teacher. That's kind of like you were talking about with my organization. Like it's very, like I'm a very task oriented person of like, all right, like this was my teacher. I completed the grade, moving on. And so I do see maybe that's why I don't remember a lot of teachers. But it was your German teacher who was like, you guys should thank teachers. Like teachers don't get enough thanks. And I was like, yeah, he brings up a valid point that we don't thank our teachers enough. And like I said, I only remember one teacher, Miss Banks. Miss Banks was my 5th grade teacher. She was years and years and years ahead of her time in terms of her teaching style, doing very hands-on activities in the classroom. One of my most favorite memories, which I don't have many from school apparently, was Miss Banks. This is 5th grade. She had us, like I said, she was very much into the science, technology, engineering, and math before it was a thing. We did this project with toothpicks, and you had to buy toothpicks. Each toothpick had a value as if it was like a construction site. And we had to build a bridge out of these toothpicks. So we got in a group and we built it. And my group's bridge was the most expensive to build. However, she was able to put like the most weight on our bridge. We had to design this bridge and like just really fun activities. And I have never told her thank you in my life until today. I have you and your German teacher to thank for this as well. So
shout out to Herr Weaver.
I wrote to her, Miss Banks, it has been 31 years since I was in your 5th grade class. To this day, you are the only teacher I remember. I still vividly remember my first day of 5th grade at a new school in a new country. You sat me at a group of desks with Cam and Justin. Cam, Justin, and I are still friends to this day. So thank you for the gift of lifelong friends. You introduced me to science and showed me that women can love science. I loved our experiments and documenting our results in our scientific journals. I remember that you were so proud of my handwriting and organization in my scientific journal. To this day, I still love all things organization. Looking back, I realized that you truly loved teaching and your students. I believe that you are way ahead of your time in your teaching methods and STEM style class format. Thank you for being the best teacher I ever had. Jennifer, at the time, Lustig, so she knows who I am.
Is Miss Banks still with us?
Yeah, so really funny you asked that. Just yesterday on Facebook, she posted a picture that she still lives overseas. I was overseas at the time when I was in her class living in Germany. And she is getting ready to go to the Odyssey of the Mind World Championships. Like I do not know her age. I don't want to even guess, maybe in her 60s. But she is still at it. She's still going. I mean, she posts all these pictures on Facebook of hers at seminars and conferences, and she's still amazing. We haven't spoken in person since then, but I do love, seeing her pictures and knowing that she's still doing what she loves.
Sounds great. So Miss Banks, so I didn't know that you lived in Germany.
I did, and it was so fun listening to your episode about like you going to Germany and your German teacher. I'm afraid you know German better than me though, because I went to the American school when I was there. So, learned some German. But yeah, I lived there from the 5th through the 9th grade. My mom works for the government, and we were stationed over there for 5 years, and it was amazing.
What part of Germany did you live in?
We were in Wiesbaden, which is kind of Frankfurt area. Most people know Frankfurt. And I haven't been back since, actually. So now that my kid's old enough, I'm just like, we're just going to wait and take him. And my husband and my kid are going to have to do the whole trip down memory lane.
Yeah, I haven't been back since 1997. So I've been dying to go back. I guess I've been to the airport. That doesn't really count. But
yeah.
All right, last question, Jen. You are the queen of outdoor vacations. What, for somebody that wants to take an outdoor vacation with a kid, we'll just say between 3 and 8 years old, what do you look for in the places that you go, and what's somewhere that you would recommend?
I don't know if you look for a specific thing, but I would say the national parks is probably your best starting point to go with kids. I mean, well, actually, we took Connor to his first national park for his first birthday. He went to Glacier National Park. It wasn't like his birthday trip. We just happened to be there on his birthday. But it's great. National parks, especially as your kids age, national parks have very poor cell phone reception, right? So there's no iPads. The historic lodges have no televisions. It truly is family time. It's time in nature. And the national park system, they have their visitor center. Everything's very planned out for you. You don't have to kind of, get this random cabin in the woods and where are we going to hike today? You get your little park brochure, and there's still a cafeteria there and a little camp store. So it's a nice introduction. And obviously it's a national park. They've been around for so long. They're beautiful. you do just have to plan them many months in advance if you would like to either get a camping spot or a hotel in the national park. That was the one that I can't book for next summer yet, for next July. And I was like, come on, like, I really want this specific hotel. Like I said, they have these historic lodges that were built in the early 1900s. I mean, the one we stayed in last summer had no air conditioning in Oregon, but they're so historic and beautiful, and the history and the architecture. But if I had to pick one of my favorites, I love Glacier National Park. And it's nice too at Glacier, right? A lot of national parks, you just like drive through. It's kind of like you drive, you get out, you look at something pretty, you drive. So you're not like walking millions of miles a day and exhausting your child. They have a lot of paved trails too, like a little like quarter-mile paved thing. You can take the stroller, look at a waterfall. So Glacier, and then Yellowstone is my husband's favorite. But I think those are great starting points for people that want to get outside and see something beautiful that's been around forever and has been protected by our country for everybody to see.
Yeah, and good weather in the summer too.
Yeah, definitely. That's why next summer we're heading up to Olympic National Park, because we will escape the Texas heat in July.
Did you grow up going to national parks, or is that something you kind of got into in adulthood?
No, it's actually my husband is the one that I think probably like maybe 2 years into our marriage, he was like, hey, let's go on a road trip. And we drove up to Utah, and we did Arches National Park and Canyonlands. In Colorado, we did Black Canyon of the Gunnison, something like that. And we camped at the time. I mean, like, we just packed up the tent and we drove out there. We subsequently have upgraded to a camper. So now we do have a little bit more luxury, but no, it was all his idea. And now I've lost track of how many we've been to. We've been to a majority of national parks in the country. And I really think it's one of the best gifts you can give your child. He has like a little, the national parks have this little stamp book. So every national park you go to, you can get a little stamp, and I take his picture with the national park sign and I put it in his book. And his book is full. I've had to purchase a second book for him. And I always jokingly say, I was like, you're not going to write an essay for college. You're just going to submit this book. And hopefully it will show college that you're a well-rounded person.
Wow. All right, Jen Rippe, we did it. Thank you so much for being my guest. And
all right.
I guess I'll see you at work.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in. I will have a copy of the photo that Jennifer talked about on my Instagram account. We'll have another episode in 2 weeks. In the meantime, subscribe, like, rate, review, and praise this podcast wherever you're listening. Follow my podcast on my various social media accounts, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I think we're actually on LinkedIn now too. Those accounts are linked in the show notes. Email the show a thank you note. The email address is thankyouNotesPod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.